Do you suffer from the debilitating symptoms of chronic pain, swelling, and loss of joint motion due to arthritis? Are you taking drugs like Celebrex and Vioxx or other super aspirin prescriptions? If you are, you're increasing the risk of heart attack and stroke by up to 50%. This is Dr. Tom Roselle, host of Dr. Tom Roselle Live Sundays at 12 noon. Why live with pain or the dangerous side effects of drugs when the doctors at the Roselle Center for Healing, practicing 21st century integrative medicine, can help you experience relief like never before? Simple, safe, chiropractic, acupuncture, and nutritional care can provide significant relief from arthritic pain in less than 6 weeks. More than 70% of our patients experience a return to life far beyond their expectations. Give yourself the best gift possible, freedom from arthritic pain, naturally. Call today to schedule an appointment. Call 703-698-7117 or visit online at rosellecare.com.
Dr. Tom Roselle Live, right now, on 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL.
Welcome to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. This is Dr. Tom Roselle, live in studio, waiting to take your phone calls on any subject that you have in mind. Perhaps you've had a problem, you've tried, you've applied, and guess what? Same old, nothing works. Well, here's an opportunity to find out the skinny on what you can do differently without drugs, without surgery. Call us, 888-630-9625. That's 888-630-9625. Love to talk to you and see if we can help you through the weeds, so to speak, and give you some ideas that you may not have thought about. As always, we're trying to give you the most intimate information on integrative therapeutics, from chiropractic, acupuncture, nutritional, all those things that you really didn't know where to go to find out. Well, here's an opportunity to find out about them. I'd like to remind you, coming up October 17th, Saturday, Ageless Health 2015. Register now. You have about a week or so left before the end of June. Today is the 21st, so about 10 days or 9 days. So you can save money. Go to agelesshealth2015.com or go to rosellecare, rosellecare.com, and register, because you're going to save some money. And it's a day that I promise you won't forget. It starts early in the morning, and it goes to the afternoon, about 5 o'clock. And this year's topic is about the brain and the nervous system and how it affects immunological systems and everything that affects you. Your body's controlled by your brain and spinal system. And guess what? We're going to talk a little bit about that today. That's why I started out by prompting you. Interesting topic, one that we've mentioned before, but one that needs to be talked about, simply because it affects, in this country, over 10% of the population, and that's direct from impact injury. What are we talking about? We're talking about whiplash. You know, that thing that everybody talks about, whiplash. Well, we're going to tell you what that really means. And who better to help me talk about those things than the professor, Dr. Harlan Browning.
Good to be here, Tom.
Hey, buddy.
Going to be a good topic. As always, we're going to go over a lot of things that pertain to things that people experience ongoingly, motor vehicle accidents being one of them. In Northern Virginia, we know the gridlock involved in 495, and fender benders are a big part of it. So, unfortunately, a lot of times when we have one of these accidents, it goes above and beyond just a little dent in the car. We injure ourselves.
Well, you know, when people talk about whiplash, they always consider that, you really have to be injured in a car. You got to be plowed into, and people say, well, I just, got a stiff neck, or, I had a little bit of a headache for a day, then, I took a couple whatever and it went away. Talk about the significance of these injuries. What do people have to really be worried about? What are the worst injuries? At what speeds? Is there a differentiating marker at all?
Well, first of all, whiplashes are not solely revolving around automobile accidents. We could have a whiplash riding our bike and falling off, and our head bounces one way and then the other. It's really the mechanism of the injury. It's the head going backwards and then violently forward, or vice versa. So it's the compression on one side of the neck and the stretching on the other, and then the reverse rolls. So as it relates to motor vehicles, uniquely we have the seat belt involved, which it's an important structure. The car holds us in place, but it provides a fulcrum. In other words, a point in which our body starts to revolve around. So when we abruptly stop because we've hit something or somebody has hit up, then the neck's going to be, freely moving, and unfortunately we're going to start to damage things.
This is something that's always fascinated me, and I do know the answer, but I want you to talk about it, because patients ask me, they watch the Indianapolis 500. and these guys are going round and round and round at a couple hundred miles an hour, and all of a sudden the car slams into one of the sidewalls and explodes what looks like 100 pieces, but the driver walks away, and they seem to be okay. Yet we have people who get a fender bender and they suffer forever. What's going on there? What's the difference in the mechanics?
Well, with the racing league guys, the NASCAR or Indy, they have technology on their side. Now, the seatbelt design crosses over on both directions. Their head is actually held in place. There's a roll cage, so there's a huge amount of safety put in there, especially because the speeds they're traveling at. So, although they get into some pretty horrific accidents, in actuality, they don't get beat up as much because of those safety, places put in. But, the average American car, although we put in safety ratings and we have to have a minimum rating to be able to be sold, some of these cars are just not as safe as they should be. So, we use lots of plastics instead of metals now, so the cars are just not as strong.
One of the things I explain to our patients when they come in, and at least from my vantage point, because it made total sense, I listened, to a guy presenting a whole weekend on whiplash injury, and one of the things that he said, and he brought up this fact, the thing that we were just talking about, that these race car drivers walk away was what apparently seems to be minimal injury, although they are injured, and people who get hit at 15 miles an hour from a rear end seem to have very traumatic. And what he said was there's this thing called linear acceleration of energy that goes from the impact to the person, and when you have a car that's hit from behind at 12 to 13 to 15 miles an hour, there's very little impact to the automobile, apparently. There's no damage. And the energy goes through, and it's uninterrupted. It's unabsorbed, if you will. And it goes to the occupant. And as it moves through the occupant, by the time it hits the neck, it's at about 5 gravitational units of energy, which is a lot. But here we have these race car drivers, and they're going round and round, and they explode. Well, what's happening is that explosion of material is taking the energy, the impact away from the occupant, so it doesn't go into the occupant like it does. So I'll give a patient an analogy. I said, take 2-gallon jugs of water and plastic, like we'd go out and buy it and hit them together. What happens is the water careens over back and forth, and it's being smashed around. There's no damage to the plastic. And going back to what you're talking about as well, but when you're hit from, or when you take those 2 glass containers now full of water, 2 gallons full of water that are made out of glass, and you hit them, they break. The glass breaks, it shatters, and the water drops directly to the floor. No impact or injury to the water. And that's what happens to the patient. And so the patients who have the lower impact have much more injury to their body accumulated over time than these guys going to the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, and unfortunately, on the insurance side of it, so whoever your insurance carrier is, Geico or whoever, very often they determine how much they're going to reimburse on the medical bills by the amount of damage to the car. So this is the sticky situation that we're seeing a lot of the researchers over the last 15, 20 years saying, like, I see lots of people that are getting hurt, but yet the car is fine. So there's a lot of pushback from the insurance company that they don't want to pay the bills because the car was perfectly good after the accident, so the person must be fine.
Well, you know as well as I do, that's political economics.
Exactly.
That's garbage. 888-630-9625. My guest in studio, Dr. Harlan Browning, the professor, your presenter and educator this Wednesday evening at the Roselle Center for Healing, 7:30 p.m., June the 24th. I want to go back to March. June the 24th, 7:30 p.m. He's going to be talking about whiplash injury and all those things that can affect you. Make sure that, you really get the skinny on this. If you've been wondering where that pain came from, a month or 2 or even 6 months after you had an accident or forgot about the accident, now you're hurting. There's a lot of reason for that, and Dr. Brown is going to get in the intimacies of that. Join us. Call my office at 703-698-7117. That's 703-698-7117. We're talking about whiplash, car accidents, falls, slips, and things that you wouldn't even think that you got an accident from. But we know that 10% of the population is involved, 330,000 people minimally, up to a whole lot of you. When you do the math, it's incredible that our skiing and bumping and, behind boats on moguls. And, Dr. Browning, you do that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, 2.35 million people are either injured or disabled yearly from automobile accidents, and roughly 37,000 die. So it's a pretty big statistic.
It is, and people put up with, because as you said, between the legal system and their insurance companies, what they're saying is that there's nothing wrong with you. You couldn't have been hurt at 12 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour. Well, the truth of it is that you can be. And here's the other thing I want to get into. When you're sitting there and you're waiting for a stoplight, and some fool comes up behind you and forgets about putting their brakes on because they're looking someplace else, like their cell phone, they're texting, and you're looking across the road at the stoplight or whatever, you're looking up. Your head position based on impact has a lot to do with how you're going to get hurt, correct?
Without a doubt. I mean, if your head is turned to the side or you're looking a certain direction, then the vectors of force are going to be transmitted into your head and neck according to which direction you're looking. The muscles in our neck, encompass the front, the back, and the sides, but there's certain muscle groups that are bigger in certain areas. So if we have our head rotated to an angle in which the smaller strap-like muscles have to do a lot of work, then greater likelihood that we're going to really injure ourselves.
So let's talk about the anatomy of a whiplash. Listen, what really happens? We know that you can hit from the side, you can get T-boned, you can hit from the front, you can hit from the back, you can have all kinds of things take place. In that phrase whiplash, what it really is a hyper acceleration or a deceleration injury that's really taking place. So your head is being catapulted forward or backwards. It depends on the impact or on an angle, one way or the other. So what happens? How does this thing produce a problem that can't just go away by waiting?
Well, it's what we call a deceleration-acceleration problem. So that sounds odd, but what that means is as the car stops quickly and we decelerate, our body is going to move in one direction. And the way the seats of the car are designed, as we get to the end range, we're going to be slingshotted in the other direction, so we start to accelerate. So depending on which direction we're hit, certain tissues will be compressed on one side and then stretched on the other. And then when we reverse that, when the car comes to a stop and the body accelerates, then we start to see stretching on the other side and compression on the opposite. So there's a lot going on. So it really is it's a crapshoot on what's going to hurt and when it is going to hurt.
So you have the sequela, the consequences of a first tissue sprain strain situation. The sprain could be quite bothersome. It could be very mild. But in general, there are long-term effects because now we have the structural system. So if we look at the body and we kind of dissect it anatomically on a very limited basis, you have muscles and you have ligaments and you have fascia, which wraps everything up, and then you have the spine that protects the cord. You have your brain and your spinal cord. You have these bones of your head. You have the spinal cord being protected by these bones called vertebrae. And they move. That allows us to move and turn and twist and do all the things that we can do comfortably. But their importance also is protection of that neurological element. Now, in trauma and direct impact, they go out of position. They subluxate, as we call it in chiropractic, and osteopaths call it a spinal lesion, and cause a recidivistic action, correct?
Correct.
And they continue to cause the nervous system to be impaired.
Yeah. So the body's balance is predicated off of our vision and our inner ear and also our joint function. So if joints are healthy, then our brain is constantly updated on where we are in space. Now, if we start to damage joints because of an injury like a motor vehicle accident, or maybe just simply because of degenerative change over time, then we start to lose the ability to understand where we are in space. So it's very common when people have motor vehicle accidents that, yes, they have neck pain or maybe headaches, but they also develop balance or vestibular problems. In other words, they feel like the room is moving when it actually isn't because the joint has been compromised and then the feedback becomes poor.
So even a minor trauma, something that we wouldn't even begin to pay attention to, can cause all these things to happen.
Without a doubt.
We're coming up to a break. My guest in studio, Dr. Harlan Browning. We're talking about whiplash injury. He'll be your presenter, your host at the Roselle Center for Healing this Wednesday evening, the 24th of June, 7:30 p.m. Love to have you as our guest. Call my office at 703-698-7117. That's 703-698-7117. Don't go away. Welcome back. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. You're listening to Dr. Tom Roselle live in studio. We're talking about whiplash injuries, things that, kind of go bump in the night but make your neck and your whole body and everything else. You wonder where all of a sudden you got low back pain and nothing happened to your back, or your hands are numb, or your toes are tingling, or you got headaches, or your heart's racing, or organ systems aren't firing the way they're supposed to. They can all come about because of what seems to be a simple rear end or front end or T-bone type of accident and not show up for months or even sometimes a year or two later. Love to take your phone calls, 888-630-9625. That's how you find us here. If you'd like to register for this Wednesday evening's presentation on whiplash to find out what really is taking place and why you're still hurting after this whole time, call our office at 703-698-7117. That's 703-698-7117. Your host, your presenter this Wednesday evening, my guest in studio, Dr. Harlan Browning, an expert in this area. He is one of the brightest when it comes to the neurological system. Harlan's got credentials all the way across the board from, he has his chiropractic degree. He has a neurological diplomate. He has a nutritional diplomate. He has a diplomate in applied kinesiology. it goes on. It's disgusting. He's just a think tank. He's a really smart guy. So this is an opportunity. Be there this Wednesday evening and you'll get your questions answered completely. Michael, thank you for calling, and thank you for being patient. I appreciate it.
Yes, hello, gentlemen. Thanks for taking my call. I'm calling in regards to my mother, 85 years old, has a pinched nerve in her neck, at the base of her neck. She's been getting some treatment from her local chiropractor, and he mentioned that it's, let me see if I get these right, the occipital and the great auricular nerve, which encompasses I believe that's one that encompasses the head. A lot of pain in the head, down her neck, and it's actually, she's kind of developed some sciatica too.
Okay, leg pain.
Pardon?
Leg pain, sciatica.
Exactly, and all the way down to her calf. She's getting treatment with a cold below-level laser,
all right,
which he is able to dissipate that. Pretty much a knot there at the base of that neck.
Is she getting better, Michael?
She's actually, it's been a week now, and I'd say not any. But he has been able to dissipate that.
Okay, give me a quick question, buddy.
Huh?
Give me a question. What's the question about this?
So as far as, she can't take any pain medication, so she was trying to, use some things that are supplemental. The chiropractor mentioned curcumin, turmeric, for nerve pain.
Okay, well, listen, we're going to dissect this for you a little bit. Just hang on and listen. Michael, what we're dealing with is a multidimensional problem. Your mother is an older person, so she doesn't have the healing capacity of somebody who's in their 40s. She has degenerative problems. That adds to the complexity of the situation. The pain that you're describing, the greater occipital nerve comes up over the back of the head and up into the skull. That's one of the first nerves that exit from between the occiput and the cervical spine, which is the neck. Now you have tremendous amount of complications. The things that you're talking to are very common anti-inflammatories. Whether they're appropriate in this situation, I can't tell you. Proteolytic enzymes and other things may be better. I don't know. Dr. Browning, why don't you jump in on this?
Yeah, I would agree on the proteolytic enzymes, the proteases, those things that break down protein, probably be a little bit better on the short term. The curcumins, turmerics, those are COX inhibitors, which change inflammation over the long term. So again, that would be my first line on the nutritional side. You can be pretty sure that your mom has spondylosis, which is degenerative change in the spine, be it either the joints that are becoming arthritic or the discs are breaking down. The end product is we develop something called stenosis, where we just don't have as much room for the nerve to come out. So what happens is the vertebrae just start to lie on top of that nerve. So one of the things that I would probably consider utilizing with your mom would be traction, which would be a distraction type device, which would literally gently lift the head up off the cervical spine, making that opening for the nerve greater. And then some soft tissue techniques if your chiropractor thinks that that greater occipital nerve is being entrapped, because there's lots of soft tissue there. either massage, ultrasound, those types of things can break up adhesions and knots in the tissue and free up that nerve pretty quickly.
This is a situation where you're using low-energy light laser, which we use a lot of in our practice as well. But because of your mother's age and the degenerative disease and the scar tissue that's there, first of all, a week of treatment is not enough to get something. You may not get any results for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks. Because you have to go gently. You have to go much more easily with a person of your mother's age. Otherwise, you're going to stir up a hornet's nest. Ultrasound, high-frequency sound wave, increases circulation to the degenerative areas in the scar tissue and can be useful. But again, there's many other things. But Dr. Browning and I agree that the proteases, the proteolytic enzymes, probably more appropriate than using curcumin, which we use a lot of, and even Boswellia and so forth. There's tons of things, but I would look at it just a little bit. But give it some time. Give it at least a month, 6 weeks. See how it works out. If we can help you, give us a call. You're listening to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. We'll be back after some important messages. Hi, I'm Dr. Tom Roselle, host of Dr. Tom Roselle Live. I want to ask you a question. Ever hear it's all in your head? Well, it really is. Your body's entire capacity in a state of health or sickness is controlled by your brain and nervous system. The brain produces substances called neuropeptides that allows your brain and nerves to communicate to the rest of your body. Simply put, your brain and nervous system controls healing, learning, memory, and body function. Would you like to know how to stay healthy, live longer, have boundless energy and strength? Then join me and an elite group of wellness practitioners on October 17th for a day that could change your life forever. A day when you'll learn step by step how to create a brain-body connection that will allow you to live in a state of wellness that you deserve. Register between now and June 30th and save. Register today at agelesshealth2015.com. That's agelesshealth2015.com. Or call 703-698-7117.
Dr. Tom Roselle Live continues now on 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL.
Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Tom Roselle here. 888-630-9625. That's 888-630-9625. That's how you find us here. And how you attend this Wednesday's presentation on Whiplash, given by Dr. Harlan Browning. Call our office at 703-698-7117, 703-698-7117. Tell my staff that you'd like to attend. 7:30 p.m. at the Roselle Center for Healing in Fairfax, right off the Capitol Beltway. I mean, you get off and you're there. We're in the Red Cross building. We're up on the 3rd floor, and we'd love to have you as our guest. If you'd like to find out more about us and what we do, go to rosellecare.com, and you can check out all our practitioners and what we're about, where we've been, who we do, and so forth and so on. Anyway, it's one of those amazing tours that you will have, wondering, really, chiropractors and acupuncturists and nutritionists do all those things? Well, yes, we do, and we're there for you. We're talking about whiplash and all those things that make you hurt for a long time. Let's go to the phones first. Bob, this is an interesting statement. I need to talk to you about this. Go ahead. Let's talk.
Yeah, it bothers me that my cousins drink beer every Saturday afternoon. They empty a case between two guys, and they smoke cigarettes and drink beer. And I have a woman in my building who drives me to Whole Foods, and she drinks beer, and she doesn't know. She hates vegetables, and she doesn't even recognize the vegetables that I buy at Whole Foods. And I had my tonsils and adenoids removed when I was a kid because that was popular then. They said it gets rid of whooping cough and croup.
Yeah, somebody lied to you, Bob. Somebody lied to you. But that's all right. Go ahead.
And so I'm wondering what is keeping my friends and my relatives alive, and they're drinking so much beer and cigarettes.
Okay, so let me handle this for you. It's real simple. It's really, really straight up. Okay, first of all, I don't know enough about them, and I don't know if, what they're doing relative to the ostrich effect of putting their head in the sand and not complaining about certain things. There could be prostate problems. They're not urinating at nighttime. They got problems that they're putting up. They're taking Tylenol or aspirin on a regular basis by the bottle full.
Yeah, right.
We don't have full disclosure on anything like that. But the truth of it is that, see, I've been in practice for 39 years, And I've seen tons of people, and, you know, we know the guys that can drink a quart of whiskey a day, smoke a pack of cigarettes, and die in their sleep at 99, right?
Right.
That's less than 1% of the population. The rest of us have to take care of ourselves. See, there's this thing called epigenetics. That means that you are an exposed being to your environment. And if you do the wrong things on a regular basis, you're going to get your butt bit. And most of us, you know, are going to, you know, kind of limp along if we do those things until it happens. A good friend, God rest him, just passed away 69 years old this last weekend. And he was one of these guys that really didn't take good care of himself. Plus, he ended up, you know, with exposures from Vietnam and so forth. So all these things accumulated, and he did pretty well for a lot of years. Then all of a sudden, because of some complications of something else, he's no longer with us. It happens. Everybody, all of a sudden you get to that place where the end product, you're overwhelmed, your body can't handle it anymore. For some people, it's 35 years old. For some people, it's 85 years old. But you look at the quality of life in between. You know, and you look at intestinal systems, you look at constipation patterns, you look at, numbness and tingling and, you know, things that they're putting up with that they're not telling you about. You know, it's one of those things. So, you know, there's not enough here, you know, to really, but Bob, look, take care of yourself. If you live by the 80-20 rule, 80% of the time, if you do all the things that you should be doing and you do them really, really well, you get some exercise, you eat alkaline, you eat organic, you know, every once in a while you can mess up. You can do things that you want to do. You just don't do them to the point where they're going to be everyday, habitual, on an ongoing basis. So, you know, if you want, you know, you want to have, I got a good friend of mine. He's a doc who I love desperately for many years. And, you know, he runs every day, or he rides his bicycle probably 100 miles a week or more. And he gets exercise. His diet is good. He has his bad habits. He likes, you know, a glass of wine or two. And periodically he grabs a cigar. But he's in that 80-20 rule, and he takes care of himself that way. There are other people that can't do that 80-20 because their immune systems are so impaired and they break down. But we'd have to know a lot more. But Bob, all I can tell you is take care of yourself, and, you know, the rest of them, I promise you, they're going to start falling by the wayside, and the problems are going to show up.
You know, I want to add to that. You know, just because someone looks healthy does not mean that they are healthy. And I see that time and time again. We can be relatively lean, our complexion be good, but metabolically or internally, we could be a train wreck. What we're seeing now in healthcare, and it doesn't matter what practitioner you go to, we're starting to see diseases start to group together or buddy up. Hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes being the big three. So back, 25, 30 years ago, yes, people would have diabetes, but it would be very rare that they would have diabetes and hypertension, and it'd be extremely rare that they'd also have high cholesterol. Now we're seeing them group together, and we call it metabolic syndrome. So getting back to the last caller, don't go by what the book looks, the cover of the book. It's the material inside. So they might not be showing you the blood work, and maybe they haven't been to the doctor to have blood work in the last 5 or 10 years, and they just relatively feel okay. They don't have aches or pains, so that's their gauge. 888-630-9625. That's how you find us here. If you'd like to attend this Wednesday's presentation on Whiplash at the Roselle Center for Healing, call us at 703-698-7117. 703-698-7117. I've got to take this next caller because I love her name, or his name, Cicely. I'm Sicilian, I have to say. Hi.
Yes. This week, sadly, I learned that 2 of my close friends, both in their 50s, have ovarian cancer. And doctors have told both of them that they only have so many months to live.
First, Cicely, look.
Any advances? No,
first of all, no doctor on the planet should be allowed to tell a patient that they have X number of days or months because, if we can go back to many, many stories I can give you where a patient has been given 6 months to live and 10 years later they're alive. It depends on what you do. The body's, in my opinion, is extraordinarily forgiving, and it can change anything at any moment, providing that you give it the opportunity to do that. So you want to know what can be done. There's lots that can be done. She's under care, so remember these are opinions based on 39 years of practice. And first of all, Cancer Centers of America is a place that I would pick up the phone and call. The closest one to this area is in Philadelphia. It's a combination of medical people and acupuncturists and chiropractors and nutritionists that are working together as a team.
I didn't hear what place you said.
Cancer Centers of America.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, and the number there is 1-800-4 HELP, H-E-L-P, 1-800-4HELP.
Help.
Get the, pass that information on, and they will evaluate the case. Ovarian cancer, unfortunately, is the uncontrolled growth of crazy cells within the ovaries, and it goes into multiple stages, as I'm sure your friends know. By the time you get to stage 4, what's happening is they've started to go into other organ systems and so forth. If it's caught early, the actual statistics, now this is not me telling you, this is my giving you data, 90% of all cases of ovarian cancer can be cured, and that's coming straight up from data that I'm reading to you right now off of a website from Dr. Wheel, Andrew Wheel, medical physician, and this is part of his work. And the bottom line is that about 1 woman in 57 in the United States will develop the disease in her lifetime. And, most of them, are over 50. Now, there's a lot of risk levels for that. Because it's the ovary, a lot of them are estrogenic tag sensitive. There's things that can be done naturally. We don't treat cancer in our practice, but we support patients who have cancer with nutrition, with acupuncture, by balancing their nervous system, by doing a lot of things for them. And we work in cooperation with other physicians. But the end product, the metastasis, there was a woman, that, and I can tell you her name is Kathy Buckley because she presented her story on stage. She was given a diagnosis of ovarian cancer, stage 4, into everything. The doctors told her she had less than 6 months. If they did anything for her, they'd probably just make life worse. And she made a statement in public, said, "Who gives you the freaking right to tell me I'm going to die? I don't think so." And what she did is she changed her diet, went 100% alkaline. She went to a place where she got very low-level aerobic exercise every day. She changed her attitude. She saw herself well. And 6 months later, not only was she not dead, but the cancer was gone. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm saying to you is that if you put the right team together, that much can change. So there's many resources from the one that I just gave you and so forth. And
the telephone number. Mm-hmm.
And give her the telephone number. But if we can do anything to support the process and help her nutritionally, dietarily, happy to do that. But you got to have a team working around you. I hope that helps a little bit, Cicely. Thank you for your phone call. I appreciate it. We're talking about whiplash and many other things today because there's so many of you on the line, and I don't want to be rude and not take your phone calls. But Dr. Browning, let's get back to the topic just for a minute, then we'll go back and take some more phone calls. Dealing with whiplash injury, as we said, it can affect organ systems. You have, the longest nerve in the body called the vagus nerve. It comes down, it touches the heart, it touches the lungs, it touches, the stomach and the large intestine, and some authors say all the way down to the bladder. And just by how does that nerve, this one nerve that comes through inside the base of the skull and then courses all the way through, how is that affected in a whiplash?
Well, we can see changes in our viscera for 2 reasons. One, that you're speaking of, we irritate this nerve, the vagus nerve, mechanically because it passes through delicate structures, so it can be tractioned or compressed just like anything else. But we'll also see it because something called a somatovisceral response, which basically means that all of our nerve fibers that send information to the brain about pain also interface in the brainstem. That's the bottom part of the brain that controls basic mechanisms like respiration, digestion, and those types of things. They interface there. So when they start to bombard the brainstem with lots of pain, then they turn on other nerves, and we call that autonomic concomitants. And that's why when people have head traumas or motor vehicle accidents, they often will experience digestive problems, vertigo, and those types of things.
So in other words, you're an accident waiting to happen.
You could be.
Pretty much.
Certainly could be.
So we talked about car accidents, and we talked a little bit about falls. But something as simple, and I've told patients, they look at me like I'm weird. You're sitting on the sofa, you're watching television, you're reading a book, and you go to sleep, and your head drops hard down in front of you. Is that a whiplash?
If it's significant enough, yeah, sure, you could call that a whiplash. It doesn't have to be a 200 mile an hour crash at the Indy 500 to be considered a whiplash.
And actually, we're talking about minor situations, right?
It certainly could be.
Are the most profound.
Yep, in the wrong place at the wrong time.
This Wednesday evening, you're going to get the skinny on all this stuff. You're really going to understand in detail what happens, but more importantly, why so many of you have ended up in pain or dysfunction over a long period of time. You know my case. You treat me at the office. And 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, I was in an accident. Sue and I were in an accident where we hit head-on in Herndon, and the guy was torquing about 50 miles an hour. We were slowing up for a light and hit us, and I thought Sue was dead in the car. But to this day, as a result of it, I've had significant ongoing problems and I've had the best care in the world. And had I not been treated, I wouldn't have been able to get to the place where I am today. But that was a heavy-duty accident where the reason that we survived was the car crushed like an accordion and took a lot of the impact of the car. Had that been a little closer, it could have been a little different situation. Not a happy thought to think about. But the point of it is that so much can be done to reverse the process. Lawrence, from Williamsport, how can I help you, sir?
Yeah, I was calling you. You was talking last week about chlorine in pools.
Yes, sir.
Well, last year I switched from chlorine to another product. It was called Pristine Blue, and I just got the bottle up there just to take a look, just to see what was what. And here it has instructions on it about how to handle pesticides and stuff. So I'm assuming that this product must be some type of pesticide, because the main ingredients, I believe, is copper, and it's supposed to...
Copper can have some problems. You have to be real careful about absorbing too much copper into the body because it can cause neurological damage, and it can increase... you see copper bracelets, and it's supposed to be great for arthritic degeneration and so forth. But, there's chlorine substitutes, and bromine is one of them, and they use it in pools and spas. You have to be careful. Oxygenations of getting more oxygen in the water will also kill bacteria. The combination with bromides or bromines, that will help as well. There's not one safe system. There's pool cleaners. You have to take those in consideration as well. There's so much. I wish we could get into it. Matter of fact, what we're going to do is I'm going to put it on the calendar. We're going to talk about chlorine, and we're going to talk about chlorine substitutes and the side effects and things it can use. But understand that chlorine exposure on a regular basis is not a good thing. It can do tremendous amount of damage to your body. Even though you try to take a shower immediately afterwards, it's already got in your body. And if it's warm, like you go into an inside heating pool, it's worse. The chloride gas is going to hurt you. We'll be right back after some important messages. This is Dr. Tom Roselle, author of Ageless Health. Health is a do-it-yourself program. My book, now also available in audio version, is a step-by-step program of how to take control of your health and wellness without drugs or needless surgery. You have the capacity to change your health and level of well-being. Take control of your health today and order Health is a do-it-yourself program.
For more information and to order, please visit agelesshealthbook.com. That's agelesshealthbook.com.
105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. You're listening to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. We have been in studio. And by the way, happy Father's Day, everybody. I didn't forget because I'm a father, too. And, it's been a great day. I got a call first thing in the morning from my daughter. They're on vacation. She knew I was up. We chatted. Make sure that you acknowledge dads today because, sometimes we feel like nobody appreciates us. We're like the trash that gets, taken out every once in a while. Seriously, call your dad, tell him Happy Father's Day, or go play golf with him, go for a walk with him, take him out to dinner, but acknowledge him. It's important. 888-630-9625. That's how you find us here and how you register for this Wednesday evening's presentation, the 24th of June, 7:30 p.m. with Dr. Harlan Browning. He's going to be talking about Whiplash. Your host, your presenter, call us. Call our office, 703-698-7117. That's 703-698-7117. Tell my staff that you'd like to attend, that you'd like to be there, and more importantly, you can learn something. If you've been suffering with discomfort, don't know where it's coming from, but you do remember that you got hurt at one point, this is an opportunity to figure it out and really what it's all about. So Join us. Be there, 7:30 p.m. Love to have you. And don't forget, you've got just about 10 days, 9 days to register for Ageless Health 2015 and for this October, and to save a few bucks, because July 1, the prices go up. And don't wait. I mean, if you're planning on being there, if you're thinking about it, you want to be there with us, and I'm telling you, if you've never been to Ageless Health 2015, don't miss this year's presentation. It is above the cuts. Charles, are you still there? Charles?
Hello. Oh, yes, Dr. Roselle. Thanks for taking my call. I was recently reading an article. I'm over 60 and 66, and I read an article about ribose, R-I-B-O-S-E, which said is a good energy creator if you take it on a regular basis.
Okay, so we'll talk about it a little bit. Matter of fact, this is right up Dr. Browning's alley as far as exercise and endurance and stamina and so forth. Ribose is one of those things that's being purported, but you have to look behind the screen, so to speak. You know, ribose is a sugar. And go ahead, Dr. Browning.
D-ribose, that's one of the most common forms of it. You hear it a lot with people who have fatigue or energy patterns. And what it does is it helps upregulate the mitochondria, that's the energy production plants in each cell. But you have to take a step back and ask yourself, why is the person actually tired? Are they tired because there's an underlying thyroid dysfunction, an underconversion of hormones? Is there an adrenal problem? So as a standalone therapy, it might not get you the results that you want to see, because you're specifically addressing one small component of the energy production. So I think it's better to kind of try to figure out what's causing it, and then figure out if D-ribose is going to be the nutrient that you're going to want to take.
You know, one of the things, like any nutrient, everything has side effects, and the thing that you have to be aware of with D-ribose is that if you're being treated for blood sugar handling problems, if you're taking diabetic medication, if you combine D-ribose with it, it makes for much more efficient use of blood sugar within the body, and subsequently your blood sugars could drop too much. It's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that you got to work with your doctor to get you off the other types of medication. And there's a lot of things that can support that whole pathway. And again, that's a conversation that we can have, you know, for a different day as well. But D-ribose is one of those things. It's in the athletic marketplace. It reduces fatigue, according to a lot of reports, and increases energy and endurance. But as Dr. Browning said, you got to look behind the screen here and find out what's really causing the problem. This Wednesday evening, the 24th of June, Dr. Harlan Browning will be your host, your presenter at the Roselle Center for Healing. We're going to be talking about whiplash injury and all the neurological complications, the things that affect your internal system, your organ systems, your ability to see, hear, and respond, and even have balance as well, being able to stand on your own 2 feet. Call us, 703-698-7117. We'll see you next week, same time, same old place. This is Dr. Tom Roselle.
Are you dental phobic? Do you neglect your dental health because of fear and anxiety? A beautiful smile begins with exceptional dental care, and you can trust in the expertise of Soft Touch Dental Care and Dr. Michael Chung. Soft Touch Dental Care is unlike any dentist office you'll ever experience. Their warm and welcoming environment is designed to soothe fears and anxiety the moment you arrive, and they're especially pleased to pamper their honored guest patients. Dr. Michael Chung is a professional and leading expert in all areas of comprehensive dentistry, including cosmetic, sedation, neuromuscular, TMJ, and implant dentistry. Offering state-of-the-art technology, Dr. Chung can give you the smile of your dreams. Arrange for a complimentary consultation today with Dr. Michael Chung and experience the expertise that makes Dr. Michael Chung so unique. Call 703-319-6990. That's 703-319-6990. Or visit bestinsmile.com. That's bestinsmile.com.